Good afternoon, and hope you are enjoying the 2021 Sloan Sports Analytics Conference. My name is Dan Borchik, and I'm a first-year MBA and engineering student at MIT. And it's my pleasure to introduce our panel, To Play or Not to Play, Rich Eisen, one-on-one with JJ Watt. Our panelist is JJ Watt, three-time NFL Defensive Player of the Year and a five-time first-team All-Pro selection and a defensive end for the Arizona Cardinals. Our panel will be moderated by Rich Eisen, the host of the Emmy-nominated Rich Eisen Show and an NFL Network broadcaster. The moderated panel will run for approximately 20 minutes, and we'll leave 25 minutes at the end for audience questions. Please use hashtag #TimeToPlay on Twitter to submit questions to our panelists. Questions will then be selected by the moderator. With that, I'll turn it over to you, Rich.
Thanks very much, Dan. Greatly appreciate it. And JJ, don't act so surprised when you hear that my show's Emmy nominated. I don't understand.
The only thing I was surprised by was that it wasn't Emmy award winning.
Thank you. I was too. I would say I was robbed, but I think we lost to Inside the NBA, which is a tremendous show. How are you, JJ Watt? How's everything going?
I'm good. I'm just whenever you're ready to hand over the honorary degree from MIT, I'm ready to accept. So is
that what you're doing this for? That's what you're here? You're here for the honorary degree?
I was under the understanding that was part of it. That's what Daryl Morey told me.
I don't know. I haven't received my VIP gift bag yet, but I'll be sifting through for I don't know if that's part of it, but one can only hope. One can only hope.
I'm excited to be here. Thanks for having me. And thanks for doing it. I'm looking forward to it.
And you know what? I'm thrilled to be chatting with you. You're one of my favorite people. I think you and I first met at the Super Bowl in Indianapolis. You were just finishing your rookie season. It was you and Cam Newton doing an event.
Yeah.
And the lines were already around the corner for both of you. And you stayed to the last second. You were taking photographs and just shaking hands and kissing babies. And it was the beginning of a run that's taken you now to all of these heights, JJ. So let's get started with the fact that you could have been introduced as an Arizona Cardinal. It's going to probably, imagine, take some time for you to get used to something like that.
Yeah, it definitely is. After 10 years of being in Houston and obviously doing interviews and introducing myself as a Houston Texan, it certainly does take a little bit of time to get used to the new title. My brother and I were doing something yesterday for the NFL Network, and they said, just introduce yourself and say, JJ Watt, defensive end, Arizona Cardinals. And it still takes my brain a couple seconds to flip over from just automatically saying Houston Texans. So, but very excited to be down in Arizona. Very excited about the team, the opportunity. It's going to be a lot of fun.
Yeah, I hear you. For the first 2 years, I was on NFL Network, a couple times on NFL Total Access. I welcome people back to Sports Center. Like that actually happened. I'm serious, and I could see everyone in the control room going like, like one of those moments. But it's, obviously you're so you're identified. I mean, that's your identity. That's been your identity since coming off of campus in Wisconsin. And I imagine that, that's going to take some time for you to get used to,
Yeah. Same thing as when I went from Wisconsin to Houston. You have to, even with interview questions, when you're talking about the city and you're talking about all sorts of things, 10 years is a long time to have built up this kind of repertoire of the way you answer questions and the things that you talk about and the highlights that you do with your teammates and things. And so to flip all that over now and talk about the Valley and talk about Phoenix and talk about, Scottsdale and all those things, but I can tell you one thing, I'm looking forward to getting to know the area even better, because I was down there a couple weeks ago and it's a beautiful place.
It sure is. So, did you like being, wooed? And I mean, it's been a while for you, I imagine, right? That the last for you to go on some sort of a tour or just hear what other people have to say about your worth, your value, your abilities, your desire to play for them to play for you. That had to be something for you.
Yeah, it obviously wasn't the most typical free agency ever because of COVID and because you're not able to travel and actually meet with people and get in person. So it was unique in the fact that it was before actual free agency. So I did have time to kind of sit there and really assess everything. But I mean, obviously the most fascinating part is just watching fake stories and made up headlines and all sorts of different people just running with absolute truths as if it came straight from my mouth. And that was kind of the whole time. I never said a word for that exact reason. Was I wanted it to be as quiet as possible. And I think a lot of people were probably surprised by Arizona at the end, because it was never spoken about. It was never leaked. It was never talked about. And that was on purpose. I wanted my process to be quiet, and I just kind of let people say whatever they wanted to say the whole time, and it didn't bother me.
Yeah, I guess the whole concept is like, maybe you'd want to go back to Wisconsin, or play with your brother, or were those any possibilities at any point in time for you,
There were
JJ?
plenty of possibilities throughout the whole free agency process. There's every situation comes with a different set of circumstances and a different set of things that happen. I think that, being down in Arizona, one of the biggest things for me down in Arizona is Vance Joseph is the defensive coordinator. We were together my first couple of years in the NFL when Wade Phillips was the defensive coordinator. Wade ran a defense that I had a lot of fun and success in, and we had a lot of success as a defense. So the familiarity there is phenomenal. And then the opportunity to play alongside guys like Chandler Jones and Budda Baker and some of the other guys they've got on that defense, we're going to have a lot of fun. With a young, talented quarterback and Kyler, and you got Hop, and now we got AJ Green, and there's players all over the place. And Cliff he's got an offense that flies the ball around the field. So I'm really looking forward to the opportunity. We have a young, talented team, and I can't wait to hit the field with them.
All right, so let's get to the topic at hand, to play or not to play, because I don't know if this is my first time at this conference as well. I don't know if I'm thin-skinned or I got my head in a swivel. I don't know if there's somebody's like taking a hit rate on my question per actually hitting the title type thing, or there's an interview above replacement or something like that's being applied to me right now, JJ. So I guess let's get to play or not to play.
Play or not to play. Let's do it. I choose play.
Yeah, I know that's and it is kind of an obvious question to ask an athlete, certainly somebody like yourself, having gone through what you've gone through with injuries, though. So when you have come back from injuries, how do you view the concept of wanting to play, and ever having a moment where you thought, you know what, I just don't know why I'm doing this anymore?
Yeah, I can tell you that my response to injury, rehab, and recovery has changed dramatically over time. The first time that I had when you're young, you're invincible. You're just, you think you're invincible. You believe you're invincible. You believe that everything is going to work out perfectly and exactly how it's supposed to work out. So my second year in the league, the second week of training camp, I dislocated my elbow, tore every ligament in there, and we're 3-4 weeks away from our first game. And this is my second year in the league. I'm obviously trying to build up who I am as a player and what I can accomplish in this league. Went and got, trainer popped it back in on the field. Went and got the MRIs. They said your ligaments are all torn. And then they said, but you're not a baseball pitcher. You don't need to like throw a baseball with your left arm. So you just let it scar over and it'll heal itself. You have to wear this brace the rest of your career. But I was 23 years old, and I said, okay, whatever, just put the brace on it. Let's go play. And so 3 days later, I was doing push-ups in the training room, and I was like, let's go. It's just whatever. Like, I was almost too dumb to realize, like, you might want to be a little smarter about this. But I ended up playing the first game of that season, and that was my first defensive player of the year season. I think the naivety of it, naivety is great. MIT conference. I don't even know it's the word. Naivety of it helped in that circumstance. I was very young, and body's can recover very quickly and can do some things that you don't even really, it probably shouldn't be able to do. Then later, I had my first true career, my first season-ending injury, which was the back surgery. And so my back, I messed up my L5S1 in my back. And again, thought I was invincible. I said, I literally asked the trainer and the doctor, I said, what's the fastest anybody's ever come back from this? And I think they said it was, I can't remember, but it was absurd. It was just a ridiculous timeline. I said, all right, I'm going to beat it. And that was kind of my mindset for everything, was I'm going to do this the fastest and the best anybody's ever done it. Well, when you're dealing with a back surgery, that is probably the single worst plan that you can have. So I came back. I made it back I had the surgery, I think, in July, and I played in the first game of the season in September. And 3 games into the season, I did my back again and missed the whole season. So then you start to learn, like, okay, maybe I'm maybe I'm approaching this the wrong way. But it's a battle. It's constantly a battle mentally with yourself, because you're an athlete and your whole life you've been taught about competition and perseverance and this mindset of be tough, overcome everything. But you have to learn and grapple with the reality that sometimes things do take time, and you have to allow them to play out that course of action that they have to play out, for you to come back the way that you should be able to come back.
No, I mean that's part of the reason why I'm thrilled that I'm here with you today at a conference like this one, having a conversation like this one, because I could throw out some analytics here about what the average recovery rate is, and I do have one that there's a 5 to 10% chance of a recurrence for the average person of hurting their back again, and with a herniated disc, and obviously we just heard what you went through, but this conversation is a lot about heart, and it's a lot about want to, and it's a lot about what's in your DNA, and and your parents and what they instilled in you, or coaches, what they instilled in you. Did you have a moment at any point in these times in your career, where you thought maybe this is something I don't want to do anymore? I've got a brain in my head. I got a head on my shoulders. I got a body that does work. But if I keep doing this again, I mean, what's the point? I mean, did you ever have one of those moments in a rehab, JJ?
Absolutely. Absolutely. And it took me a long time to be able to admit that, I would say, because one of the things that you kind of struggle with is the fact that you have this tough mindset where I'm going to overcome this. Every day is a great day. Every day in rehab is a positive step forward towards where I'm trying to get to. The reality of rehab is some days suck. Some days you are literally thinking, am I going to get better? Am I going to be the player that I was before this? Am I going to be able to get on the field, period? And that's just the facts. Like, some days early in a rehab session, you're only allowed to do a simple leg lift or a walk. And some days you can't even do that leg lift. And some days you're struggling with that. And you're thinking to yourself, I can't even lift my leg up. How the hell am I going to play football again? Much less play it at the highest level I can possibly play it at, much less play it at a defensive player of the year caliber level and earn this paycheck that this team has told me that they're going to give me for my play. And you start to stack all these things on top of yourself, and you think about the fans, you think about your teammates, you think about the money, you think about just all the expectations and the goals, and that stacks up and it can weigh on you. But it also can be motivation, because that's literally why I did go through all the mud. That's why I went through all the shit of the rehab and the just work and the grind and the tedious and the pettiness and the little day-to-day things that you have to do because of my teammates, because of the fans, because of the obligation that I said to the team that I'm going to give them everything I have every day. There are definitely times where I thought, should I just stop? Should I just not do this? But the overwhelming feeling every single time was, no, I'm going to run back out of that tunnel. I'm going to go make plays that make this entire place stand up on their feet once again.
Well, I'll be honest with you. I know I'm just saying that because, you're here in front of other people. Like, I have in my, 18 years with NFL Network and being in stadiums in the NFL and covering the NFL, I've seen two players whose play on the field plug directly into the fans in the stands. And again, I love having conversations like this because I don't know how to put analytics on this, but their play on the field just sent the fans in a totally different frenzy and plugged in like the Matrix. It's Marshawn Lynch in Seattle and it's you in Houston. I mean, I have been there watching how the fans are kind of wondering what's today going to be like. Then you come up with a sack or a pick six or a fumble recovery for a touchdown. That was the end of that. It was a wrap, a total wrap. And I imagine that's got to be something intoxicating for you to maybe fuel yourself as you're trying to get the hell back out there.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate that. First of all, that's a proud company. And that's exactly it. I mean, on the darkest days, on the days where you're struggling, I'm very, very fortunate to have incredible people who have helped pick me up when I'm down, whether it's my wife, whether it's my family, it's teammates, it's trainers. But the thing that really keeps you striving towards playing on that field again is that intoxicating feeling of making the play that changes the game, that gets the entire building, the entire city, the entire state on your side. There's nothing like it. And it's one of those things that it's so intoxicating, and it's such a rush and a feeling that you can't get in any other aspect of life, that it makes you understand when people say, they leave the game and you just never get that again, and you're constantly trying to find it. I can understand why you don't get that anywhere else, because there's nothing like it. But at the same time, those highs, those unbelievable moments where you're feeling that rush, that energy, that intensity, the exact flip of that is the consequence of the opportunity to have those highs. That's the injury. That's the loss. That's the crushing defeat. That's the broken leg coming off the field and going into a ambulance and going to the hospital to have immediate surgery. It's that, weight and balance that you have to constantly give back and forth in your head. And that's, you sit here, I'm 32 years old now, and I can't wait to play in my 11th season in the league. But a couple of years ago, you're weighing that balance and saying, are those highs worth it if that happens again?
How has marriage maybe changed this, though? How has marriage maybe changed this, JJ? Not to say that you were a selfish individual playing for no one other than just yourself, but now obviously, but your wife is a professional athlete, and so she understands this push-pull and the weight and balance that you're will that change anything, do you think, at all?
My marriage and my wife has exponentially helped my mentality. I used to beat myself up so bad mentally when I couldn't be out on the field, and when I would be going through those rehab days, and I'd have a rough day, or I'd watch my teammates walk out to practice while I stayed in the rehab room, and I would just crush myself and say, you're letting your team down, you're letting your fans down, you're letting yourself down. Like, do more rehab, do more, whatever you can. Even when it was to my detriment, I would be saying, do more, you need to be doing more. And she's unbelievable. She, early in our early in our time together when we were dating, I had my first back surgery. She helped me through that, and then she tore her ACL. So I was helping her through that. So in the first couple of years of our dating, we both had gone through, very tough situations in our careers. And having helped each other through those situations while going through them ourselves, we kind of formed a bond, and like this, we can't even really explain what it's like, but I will say this, to this day, she helps me mentally more than anybody I've ever been around, because she helps lift me up on the bad days, and she gives me a kick in the ass when I need it too. And I'm very thankful for her.
And it's interesting, on another level here, we're talking about, marriages and what a wife may say to a football player who's been there and done that. And it's interesting that, Tom Brady says that Giselle has told him, like, what else you got to prove, and the amazing thing is, JJ, we're talking about your injuries and how you've come through a lot and you've succeeded so much, and that this is your 11th season in the NFL at age 32. You'd have to play one more season than you've already played in order to play in the NFL at the same age as Brady's going to play as the defending Super Bowl champion. How long do you think you're going to go? Do you think you might ever get to that level of playing until you're 40, or what do you think?
I will say this about Tom. I don't think that, first of all, he gets an immense amount of respect. Obviously, he's the greatest of all time. Mm-hmm. I don't think that he even gets enough credit for what he's accomplished and how he's done it for such a sustained level of success for such a long period of time. As an athlete, as a player who has been frustrated by playing against Tom many, many times, I have nothing but respect and take my hat off for what he's accomplished and the way he's been able to do it for years and years. So it's, as somebody who's on the playing field with him, I can't stress how impressive it is. For myself, I feel very good physically right now. One of the things that I've learned through injuries, so this fits directly into this panel. When you're coming back from an injury, first couple times, like I said, it was get me back out there as fast as I can. Just put me back on the field. Let me be who I am. Then you go through a phase where you say, okay, I screwed that one up because I came back too fast. Let me listen to exactly what the doctors say now. And if you know doctors, they're generally going to err on the side of caution. So you're not going to be lifting as much as you would normally lift. You're going to be doing basically everything to just stay healthy and get you back on the field, as opposed to getting you back on the field as great as you can possibly be. So I went through that phase where it was just get him back on the field and make sure he stays healthy. And then I would say in the last, I can't put a timeline on it, but I basically said to myself, okay, you can go out on the field and you can be healthy and play okay football, or you can go out there and give it everything you got and see what happens. And yes, it may end in misery and pain and the way you don't want to, but it also you may go back to playing the best football you can possibly play. So I've made that decision where I'm not going to go out on the field and just try and be an okay player and stay, perfectly healthy and not put myself in tough situations. I'm doing everything that I can to be the best possible player that I can be. And that is being smart about it, but that is pushing the limits and pushing the boundaries. So one thing from an injury standpoint that I can talk about is after my back surgeries, the trainers and the doctors basically took back squatting off of my palate. They said, you can't put any sort of weight on your back. We don't even really want you front squatting at all. Like, don't load your back anymore. So I said, okay, which I understood. I understand why you would not want to do that. It makes perfect sense. But I've tried in the last 5 years, almost every alternative form of lower body loading that you can do. Double leg, single leg, belt squat, lunges, step ups, RFEs, any form of leg building activity that you can do, I've tried them all. And there is nothing that replicates either a front squat or a back squat, some form of loading where you can put a substantial amount of weight on and do a bilateral movement. There's just nothing that gets the exact same effect for what I need to accomplish on the field. So about halfway through this past season, our season wasn't going the way that we wanted it to go. It wasn't going the way I wanted it to go. So I said, I'm not doing this conservative program anymore. I'm doing me. And if I go down, I go down, but I'm doing me. So halfway through the season, I started very, very lightly and very, very slowly back squatting again. And I built it in my program. And then by the last game of the season, I had 405 on my back again. And there's doctors that'll probably tell me that's the dumbest thing in the world to do. But if I'm going to go put myself on that football field, I'm not going to put out a bullshit product. I don't want to put out a product that I'm not proud of. I don't want to be a player that I'm not proud to be on that field playing the way that I know how to play. So my back actually feels the best it's felt because it's had to deal with the strength. It's had to figure out, okay, let's do this. And I have perfect form. I have all these things because I knew that I had to do it exactly the right way and build it the right way. And my legs feel by far the best they felt.
And maybe you'll just find a different way to expend your energy and reserve your energy in another way. Cause I just remember one of the first years of NFL Total Access. I'm with Rod Woodson, Pro Football Hall of Famer. I could say this, not you, but you will share a room with him in Ohio one day. I can say those things, but he would watch Sean Merriman do his lights out celebration after a sack, and he'd just shake his head. I'm like, what? He's just celebrating. He goes, when he's later in his career, he goes, that just wastes another snap. That wastes 2 snaps. He's like that. You just gotta be done with the play and move on. And the video that went viral this week of Bryson DeChambeau warming up at the Masters, just cranking him out while Vijay Singh is just kind of there, like with his back surgery and his green jackets. Like,
yeah,
all right.
I can relate to that. I used to go out to the field and warm up 3 hours before the game. I mean, just a full warm up. You get into a full lather. Like, I'm doing pass rush moves. I'm catching balls. I'm sprinting. Right. And now, I mean, I go out there and I warm up, 90 minutes, 2 hours before the game at most. And I think I watched some of the young guys warm up 3.5 hours before the game. And I'm like, guys, we are about to play a 3 hour and 15 minute football game. You are currently 6.5 hours away from the end of this game. What are you doing? Like, it's just,
you're that guy now. You're that guy now.
I am. But I mean, if you think about the concept of that, like you're 3 hours away from kickoff even. So the first play, we're not even talking about the last play. The first play of the game, we're 3 hours away. What is this sprint going to do for you 3 hours from now? And it's just, it's funny, but I get it. That my first ever NFL game, I got so tired in warmups because I was so jacked up. And I wanted to look so good doing my like little pass rush moves that by the first kickoff, I was gassed, dead. And that was the first wake up moment for me. I was like, dude, you gotta figure this out.
Well, you're gonna have to pace yourself your first game in Arizona because you're probably gonna be so amped up for that. I mean, and knock on wood, it looks like, you know,
hands are back.
We're gonna get some tons of stadiums. So all right, I've got loads of questions here I want to get to
all right.
To these are all in here. I'll put on my glasses here so I can read them appropriately. All right. First up, JJ, what has been like going to a new team during the pandemic, like you have in terms of meeting your new teammates, coaching staff, brand new city? And how does the dynamic working with you and your wife playing in different cities most of your careers? What about that?
Yeah, that's a great question. First of all, it is interesting going to a new team during this time. Obviously, we still have no idea. It's a week away, but we still don't know if we're going to have OTAs or not, if we're going to, meet together in person, if we're going to do Zoom meetings again. Thankfully, I know some of the guys on the team already from past relationships, but also just texting with guys and trying to get in communication with guys and already trying to build up those relationships. It's a little easier in 2021 when everybody's used to, DMing on Instagram and texting. And so we're very savvy in that way. So I'm getting to know them well. But it is a little more difficult to build that chemistry when you're not physically there and in person. But once we get to camp and once we're ready to roll, it goes quick. As far as my wife and myself, she plays in Chicago now. And so during the off season, I'm up here in Wisconsin training. So she's only a 2-hour drive away. So on the weekends, I'll drive down there to see her, or she'll come up here if she has a couple off days. But we both understand that we're at a point in our careers right now where we're trying to be the absolute best we can be. Me as a football player, her as a soccer player. So I've told her that whatever you need from me in terms of support, you have it, because I want you to be the best soccer player you can be. If it's whatever it is, your apartment, your food, or whatever we need to do, and however I can support you in being the best that you can possibly be, do it. And she's told me the exact same thing. She said, you go to Wisconsin, you train, whatever you need to do. When you need to go to Arizona, do it. But we both understand that we're at a very special time right now at the top of our games and at the top of our fields. And there's kids that dream about these opportunities. So we don't want to waste them. And if we have to sacrifice a little bit of time now apart from each other, we'll do it.
Yeah, you got a lifetime ahead of you. Here's the next one. Middle linebackers are often called the captains of the defense, but recently pass rushers have started to hit higher levels on the field and in the locker room. What role would you say players like you and Aaron Donald play on your respective teams?
Yeah, I think that one of the things coming into Arizona that the coaching staff and the front office has told me is that they brought me in for a leadership role. Now, I've told them very quickly, listen, I'm not here just to be a leader. I'm here to be a dominant player. But I do look forward to that leadership role, and it's something that I do cherish. I think that as a pass rusher, you have the opportunity to change the game with a sack, with a strip sack, with a batted ball. So you can change that momentum physically for your team and for your fans by doing it on the field. But you also can do it in the locker room and in many different ways as a leader. And leadership could be its own panel here. And there's so many things that you can get into from that front. But I think that the middle linebacker still is that role on a team. I think that same with quarterback on offense. Whoever's calling the plays and whoever's speaking the most to every position is always going to be in that leadership position. The quarterback tells the offensive line where to block. They tell the receivers where to go, the running back where to line up. The middle linebacker on the defense is communicating the front to the defensive line. He's communicating pass coverage rules to the DBs. He's kind of got his hands in every bucket. So he's always going to have that more leadership position. So I think I'll still defer to that position overall.
All right. We've reached what do you think of analytics portion of this conversation, JJ? And be careful. You can't say they're bullshit. There's a whole conference, 2 days worth right here.
Analytics are fascinating. It fascinates me. Obviously, as an athlete, I think the part you would expect me to say, just leave them out of the game. We don't need them. But it's such a, I mean, I'm fascinated in this conference for this reason, because there are absolutely times where I look at the analytic reasons for doing something and I say, yes, I completely follow that. I absolutely do it. And then there are moments as an athlete when you're in the game and you're feeling that momentum, like Rich said, you have the crowd on your side, or you have something that can't be measured by numbers, and you say, just give me this one shot. I'll give you a good example of this.
Please.
So we were playing we were playing the Ravens. I want to say it was like 2014 or 2015. And they had the ball in the 2-minute drill, driving down, trying to win the game. We had the lead. It was third down. I was gassed because it was a 2-minute drill and I was pass rushing, but they were moving the ball down the field. So they were probably 6 or 7 plays into the drive. And I had been pass rushing 100% effort, 6 or 7 plays in a row, and you're just dead. And they're getting on the ball fast. They're getting on the ball fast. It's third down, going into fourth down. The clock is running. I look over to my head coach and give him this look. It was Bill O'Brien. I gave him a look, and he's told this story before, so he can back me up. I gave him a look like, if you give me a timeout, I am going to catch my breath and get a sack to win us the game. And now your analytics would say never stop the clock ever when the other team has the ball in the 2-minute drill trying to go down and win the game. It would be the dumbest thing ever to do. He saw my look. He called the timeout. I got water, dropped straight to a knee, took like 30, 45 seconds, caught my breath. Fourth down, I got the sack. We won the game. Now, your analytics are going to tell you that was your win percentage if you do this, whatever. But in that moment, he trusted me to know that I was going to beat this offensive tackle if I could just catch my breath for 30 seconds. It's a very specific example, but that's one example of something where I just knew. I had a feeling and I knew what was going to happen.
So is there anything else analytics wise? I mean, that's ever presented to you before a game by the staff in a way, or that's just downloaded to the coaching staff and they plug it into whatever they feel is the flow of a game? Like how does it actually filter down to the field and the play here?
I will say this, it's such like it's obviously not new, but it's somewhat new, especially in football. There are controversial times throughout a game. Like I think one of the analytic things that I agree with that still hasn't kind of gotten 100% acceptance around the league is the going for 2 when you're down by 2 scores, like late
right away,
game.
right? Like you're down 14 and then your team goes for 2 to make it 6 as opposed to just 7. And if you, a lot of fans are really confused by that.
Yeah. So I'm on board with that one. I understand the reason behind that one. I think that's a good thing. You could be sitting on the sideline in your own game and you're in that situation and you kick the field goal or you kick the extra point. And some of the guys on the bench now that have been watching, or seeing the analytics on other games and watching could be saying, what the hell are we doing? Like we got to be going for 2. And there's been many situations like that actually that pop up whether it's when to call a timeout in the 2-minute drill at the end of the game, or whether it's if a coach should accept a penalty or not accept a penalty. I think more and more players are seeing how things play out on other games when they're watching, and they're understanding the analytics more, and they're kind of speaking up a little bit on the sidelines. There have been a couple times in the last couple of years where I haven't agreed with the decision. I'm yelling down the sideline, what are we doing? Why are we not taking a timeout, or why are we not? And it's interesting because some teams have the full analytics team on their side and they have the headphones of the coach, and their analytics person can tell them immediately. And some teams just don't have it.
And the issue is when they don't work, then an athlete, I imagine, certainly, of your caliber would be, well, why don't you just rely on my ability to dig down deep and run counter to what the analytics might say about this situation? And when they don't work is when people really light them up. I'm guilty of that. Quite a bit on my show every day, certainly after just a mixed sports here. when Blake Snell was removed from the World Series in Game
Right.
6. And, you know, he's dominating, but Mookie Betts represents the third time through the order, and out he goes. And then World Series over after all that. And, you know, it's just like any decision, whether, you know, you want to play hit and run here or put in, you know, let's put in this person or that person, regardless of the sport. More often than not, if you rely on the analytics, it will work out. But sometimes it's that one time when it just doesn't. And holy crap, look out below, man. You know?
I think from a player's perspective, one of the most important things that you can do if you're going to do that is you have to do it every time. If you're going to believe the analytics and you're going to be an analytics team, I think you have to be an analytics team 100% of the time, because the times that you break away from it, or the one time you're analytics and it doesn't work, and then the other time you switch back, then the players are like, okay, they don't actually believe in what they're doing, or they're trying to pick and choose where then the players start to question you. Then the players say, okay, so what are we doing here? Like, are you trusting us to do our job, or are you going by the numbers? And I think that's probably with Snell, you saw it. That's where he got mad, obviously, which is rightfully so, because he's like, I'm going to win us the World Series. And you go with analytics. But if you're going with the analytics 100% of the time, at least the team can say, we've consistently done this. This is how we do things. And we're going to live by it or die by it.
Yeah, I guess if you're an analytics team all the time, and then all of a sudden, like, you know what, I'm going to go on my gut this one time.
Right.
And then I could understand it would be, you know, confusing like that. Here's another one. JJ, Bill Belichick is quoted as saying, talent sets the floor, character sets the ceiling. Do you believe that it's possible to determine whether a football player will be successful in the NFL given data and statistics alone, or is character an equally important piece?
I don't think you can judge it by both of those things combined. I think that there are so many factors that go into what defines success in the National Football League. And I'll give you an example from my own personal life. So I was drafted 11th overall by Houston. I was immediately put into a starting role on the team. My third game of my rookie year, I had not been playing good football. I had 0 sacks. I had not been playing that great, didn't have that many tackles. It wasn't really impacting the game in that many big ways. Third game of the season, we were playing Baltimore, and I got cut out of my gap, which means that I got blocked, and the ball ran right where I was supposed to be, and they gained some yards. 3 times this exact error happened, and I made the mistake. After the third time that this mistake happened, the coach yanked me from the game, the line coach, and he told the trainer, take his helmet away. I'm not putting him back in the game. So I'm sitting there on the sideline as a first-round draft pick, 11th overall starter, and I'm out of the game now. And I'm thinking to myself, oh no, am I done? Like, is this the end? Did I just lose my one chance at the NFL? Now, if I wasn't a first-round pick, I would have been done. They're not going to let a 7th, 8th, or 7th round undrafted guy have 3 opportunities as a starter and screw them all up. He's going to be gone. He's going to be cut, or he's going to be relegated down to the practice squad, or he's not going to get that opportunity. Because I was a first-round pick, they had to give me a chance. They had to let me work it out. And obviously, over time, it worked itself out, and I turned out to be okay. But if I had a coach who wasn't going to give me that opportunity, or who didn't let me work through some of my issues, it would have been curtains for me. And I think that's one of the things for me that hurts about today's world, especially with the social media and with things like this. Like, I look at a guy like Tua in Miami right now, who comes in as a rookie, and he is immediately judged on every single play of every single game. And now they're trying to decide if he's a bust after year 1.
Right.
And I'm like, the guy had 1 year, wasn't even a full playing year. And we're already trying to decide if we need to find a new quarterback and move on and move in a different direction. Their development is kind of gone. We don't, it's kind of figure it out in college. And if you don't have it figured out by the time you get to the NFL, you're done. And then you think about college, and with the transfer portal now, we've kind of taken development out of college even, because players are coming in, and if they don't start in year 1, or if they don't play, then they're looking to the transfer portal to go to a different location. So the lack of development and opportunity for players to grow and turn into the player that they're eventually going to become is dwindling. And for me, a guy who would benefited greatly from that, that's unfortunate.
you imagine if Twitter existed, JJ, in 2004, what the mentions of at Drew Brees would have looked like when Phillip Rivers got drafted? You know what I mean? Like, could you bust?
Right.
Like they've already
would he have
drafted
gotten
his
the opportunity? Would he he have ever gotten the opportunity in this league? Or would he have just been automatically written off as he's not good enough?
Right. He goes to New Orleans, and then that alone, he's made a first ballot Hall of Fame career off of all that. So we've reached the getting loose portion of the questions right here. I don't know if they're serving alcohol in this virtual MIT thing here, but let me answer this one. I'll ask it and then answer it for you, JJ. Who's better, Larry Fitz in his prime or DeAndre Hopkins? Just use the analytics phrase. There's a 0% chance JJ Watt is going to answer that, let alone twitch in the direction of even having an opinion.
Nope. Right? Okay. You're 100% right, Rich. Your
Thank
analytics are spot on. But I mean,
who knew?
How fortunate am I to have seen both of these guys and what they've accomplished? I mean, Hop has made some of the most miraculous individual talent plays I've ever seen. I mean, the guy, you throw the ball within 10 yards of Hop and that ball is being caught. You throw the ball anywhere to Larry Fitzgerald and that ball is being caught for years and years. I think he's got like the record ever for most catches in a row without a drop. And again, like Tom, Larry has done this for years and years and years and is still doing it at an extremely high level. So you're never going to get me to pick between the two, but I'm lucky and hopeful that both are in Arizona.
No, I agree with you too, because I don't know how many. I haven't looked at the research, but I will, or at least I'll have somebody do it for me. Come on, who am I kidding? Is that patch that you have right here, man? That patch that you have right here of the Walter Payton Man of the Year award. I don't know how many teams have had two guys have that on their uniform, and if obviously Larry sticks around, the Cardinals will have that. That is one of the coolest patches. Not, I mean, that you walk around. There's a lot of guys with the C on, but not that patch. That's right there on that uniform, brother.
It's a massive honor, and to be associated with Walter Payton, that name and that legacy, to be associated with guys like Larry, guys like Drew, who have upheld that legacy and what it means. It's very, very special.
Yeah, and I look forward to the honors getting back in person, because that's my favorite moment, is when the Walter Payton Man of the Year award winner is named. Whoever's in the stands who has won that award, or in the crowd, they come up on the stage, and I guess get goosebumps just thinking about it. It's so cool. And obviously, now the Hall of Famers have done that as well. All right, I got a couple left, and then we'll finish up here. All right, here's a good one. Hey, JJ, go Badgers.
All right.
I'm reading this. I'm not, advocating it.
We're going to clip that, Rich. Don't worry.
Okay. Go Badgers. Probably one of the greatest players in the history of UW football. I assume that's you. Would you ever consider coming back to Madison as a member of the coaching staff one day? JJ Watt.
Fascinating. I appreciate the question. No, I will not. I have no interest. I have no interest in coaching at the collegiate level. I have a lot of respect for college coaches and the immense amount of work that they put in, from practices to meetings to building the practice schedule. But then the recruiting side of things, it's just draining. I mean, just flying all over the country, meeting with recruits, meeting with high school coaches, conventions and practices and spring ball. And there is just the amount of time, just pure time that they put into their job is incredible. And I personally would rather spend my time differently.
Okay, very good. Here, who's the toughest offensive lineman you've played against?
Two. I got to practice against Dwayne Brown a lot of my career, being down in Houston together. Dwayne Brown's an incredible player, and I've really had some good battles with him and enjoyed that. And then Marshall Yanda from the Ravens. Love playing against Marshall, an incredible player. Could do it at guard. He moved out to tackle a couple times when they had injuries when he had to. Always played to the whistle, always was just tough as hell. And was a good player to play against. We had some great battles.
Okay. And then I saved the best for last. How much do you credit your career success, JJ Watt, to beating up on your younger brothers?
I credit, it definitely builds confidence. I'll say that. I will say this. I mean, we work out together every day. We worked out together this morning, and there is no question about it that the rivalries and the competition that we've had since we were kids in the backyard has led us all to be more successful than we would have been otherwise. I mean, just today's workout, I'll take today's workout, for example. We're in the dumbbell rack for dumbbell bench press, And, you know, I'm grabbing one weight, and now TJ's sliding down from the weight he had in his hand. Now he's sliding down 10 pounds heavier. And then, so for my next set, I saw that he slid down 10 pounds. So now I'm sliding down a little bit further. And like,
it never ends.
It never ends. And you're pushing to, like, we're consistently trying to find the limit. And we are making sure that no matter what, each of us is finding the highest limit that we can reach. And I think that you can get that from teammates, you can get that from other players, you can get that from coaches and workout partners. But there's just something about when it's your sibling and it's your brother pushing you and grinding with you and doing everything they possibly can. It's special. I'm very lucky and fortunate to have it.
That's it. Well, it's odd. One last one sneaking in here. How cool is Daryl Morey? I wonder who asked that question. It's really weird. How cool is Daryl
let's
Morey?
check the analytics on it. I don't know. We have to check the numbers.
JJ, that'll wrap it up for this this panel right here. To play or not to play right here at Sloan. You're the man. You be well. We'll chat again.
I appreciate you. I appreciate everybody on the call. Thanks, Rich, for a great job. And you guys can just you can either mail the degree to Arizona, or you can mail it up here, or you just post it online, like a picture of me with the MIT degree. Whatever you guys want to do. So
that makes sense. These are none of what you said is unreasonable in terms of a request. I think it's totally reasonable and should be at least part of the gift bag that we're expecting. All right. Thanks, JJ. You're the man.
Shit.